So, Kellyanne, let's begin with this big moment today. These are two countries that should be yoked together on things. What do you forecast?
They are. And I just saw a recent poll that shows Americans believe that the UK is our greatest ally. I would agree. 42% of Americans, followed by Canada, 24%. That may change. And I attended a reception last night at the British Embassy in Washington, D.C., and it was covered by the British press. So what Prime Minister Starmer said was public. And he basically emphasized not just the alliance, but the allegiance that he and President Trump have forged over the last couple of months. He called President Trump when he was shot in Butler, Pennsylvania, had a 2-hour dinner with him. After that, they've talked since. You know, there have been, 5 or 6 prime ministers on Donald Trump's watch in the 8 years since he had become president the first time to now. So they've cycled through quite a few. And I think with this visit today, it's not a coincidence, Harris, that Starmer said last night to all of us assembled and this week that they cut foreign aid and they've increased defense spending, quote, in the largest way since the Cold War. So I think in many ways, Starmer is aligning with the Trump doctrine, which is everybody's got to stop just showing up. You got to start ponying up. You got to start paying your fair share, whether that's Ukraine, NATO, common defense.
I want to ask just a quick follow-up because you were counselor to President Trump. So I want to know what kind of this is like. So in that relationship, though, is their electorate changing the way we saw ours did and becoming more open to, I'm just going to vote for myself, it doesn't matter which party, more populist? How would you describe it?
Well, there's been such churn and turmoil at the top of the ticket, if you will, in the UK for a while now. As I said previously, you have Boris Johnson, Theresa May, Rishi Sunak. There was another woman in there. Her name escapes me. I don't mean to be rude.
Truss.
She was there. Thank you, Liz Truss. And now Keir Starmer. And so is the electorate changing? I tell you, my Jewish friends who live in London, many of whom have their own private security and live in nice places, are fearful. Some of them are moving. The anti-Semitism there has been rankling many folks. So I think some of the demography has changed. Harris, the UK is not one of those places recently, like in other countries, where they have thrown out the incumbent necessarily. But I think Starmer is trying to, I think, get away from the stereotype that he doesn't like Trump, that the new ambassador, Lord Mendelsohn, who I've also met, don't like Trump. That's just not true. Okay. They recognize the special relationship. And I was also at the Munich Security Conference 2 weekends ago, and a lot of the European leaders, past and present, were clutching their pearls over Vice President Vance's speech. Good for him for calling out the cancellation of the remaining elections. Good for him for calling out the suppression of free speech and other personal liberties. And I think the UK recognizes that above all else, and give President Macron his due too, but coming here, not to kiss the ring and not to bend the knee to President Trump, but to figure out how to collaborate when you've got some really serious things going on in the Middle East and in Ukraine.
Charles.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you're more optimistic. You made me more optimistic than when I sat down. Particularly, I don't think I think the next time there's a UK election, to your point, it will shift back to the same sort of aura that ushered in Brexit, because people are frustrated, and I think there was an automatic buyer's remorse with Starmer. I just feel like the folks that I know there and the attitudes, they feel like, no, we made a mistake. With that in mind, if you look at the European stock market, for instance, German defense contractors, British defense contractors, those stocks are going through the roof. They are starting to pony up. They know they have to pony up. In fact, that was the election. One of the election outcomes from Germany, one of the messages were, hey, we've got to start, footing the bill, in part because they're like, it's being sold in a part like, hey, America won't come rescue us anymore, which, hey, whatever it takes, right? You do have to, quote unquote, pay your fair share. But it is interesting because people around the world, particularly in Western nations, are very, very frustrated. The citizenship, the leadership, and what some of the mechanisms that they have to muffle the voices of citizenship still bother me a lot, and
well, that's what the vice president was talking about.
Right, exactly.
Vance.
Exactly,
yeah,
100%.
Definitely. Emily.
Yeah, I note that the UK's Defence Secretary Healey, on the basis of that sustained investment, the rise in investment that the UK is making, he said, look, the importance of this how imperative it is that this is happening can't be overstated, because it's important that all of the European countries do it. So I think often what has been portrayed in the media is that Trump is somehow bucking trends by demanding this of our NATO allies and our European friends. But the reality is that Europe appreciates it also. I will note, here's the difference, that the defense secretary said the backstop needs to be the United States. Otherwise, it won't be an effective deterrent against Putin. And I believe my interpretation as an American is that what President Trump is doing is saying, I don't need to be your backstop anymore, that I will help get you there, but the training wheels have to come off, because ultimately this is your neighbor. And by the way, I'm fixing my own training wheels in my own country right now. So what I see is an absolute dedication to that alliance, our single largest trading partner in the UK, this long-standing relationship. But the idea that we are somehow perpetually the big brother is not sustainable, and it's not sustainable to those leaders, as they say when they come here with their support for President Trump, that there is a boundary.
So I don't want to step on too much, because I have a feeling that President Trump is going to tell us what he expects out of tomorrow when he meets with Zelensky, right? But that is something that European leaders like Starmer, who's here from the UK, Prime Minister, are definitely going to talk about and have some feelings about today, I would imagine.
Oh, without a doubt. It's really interesting, Keir Starmer and President Trump. They have this kind of natural affinity. They get along very well. Keir Starmer hails from the left. They share something, though. Keir Starmer just won a landslide election. He had the biggest electoral victory since Tony Blair. President Trump just had a massive electoral landslide. President Trump is the first Republican to win the popular vote in 20 years, largest raw vote total ever for a Republican. So they have that in common. But what Keir Starmer is going to be pushing for, to your point about Ukraine, is post-war security for Ukraine.
Right.
And we saw Macron push for the same thing, and he got little more than platitudes. And President Trump yesterday was asked directly about, peacekeeping force in Europe. And what he said was, I'm not going to make security guarantees beyond very much. We're going to have Europe do that. He's exactly right. President Trump is the one who came on the scene and said, Europe, hit your 2% mark. That's all I'm asking for. By the way, do you know what percent of GDP the United States spends on the military? 3.4%. As we protect Europe, we've been the guarantor of their security since NATO was formed in 1949. And he's telling Europe it's time to step up. And as we look at Ukraine, you are the ones that need to secure that country. He is putting America first, but not America alone. Hence this meeting, 2 European meetings this week. And then, of course, the one with Ukraine tomorrow.
All right. Can I just throw in there that the price tag for rebuilding Ukraine? The number is out there is, $500 billion, some crazy number like that. Obviously, at some point, they're all going to look over at us and say, hey, you guys are going to write the check. So obviously, President Trump is in a very powerful position, but he wants to take care of the American taxpayer. And of course, the young Americans, men and women who have lost their lives protecting Europe for so long. And so he's going to cut a really tough deal. It's good that everyone gets along right now, but the ideology of that they're so polar apart is at the end of the day, Trump's going to have to really take a strong stand. And I think everyone knows that he will.